My name is Sophie Neary, and I'm the Managing Director of Retail and Consumer Packaged Goods for Google in the UK and Ireland.
Can you give us a brief overview of your career journey that led you to Google?
Yeah, well, my career journey can probably be summed up in a phrase of sometimes not getting what you want is the most wonderful stroke of luck. So I actually started my career, I'm 53, so I'm not Gen Z. I started my career in 1994 and I was a graduate trainee for Reuters. And at the time, Reuters was the largest news network in the world, and it also owned the largest private computer network in the world, because that's how it disseminated its news on the newswire. It was before the days of the internet. And Reuters' flagship product was news that you would sell to the Times or to the BBC or to all news outlets around the world. And so as a graduate trainee, everyone at Reuters wanted to work on the news. And when the graduate trainee rotations were over, I got put on this project called The Internet, capital T, capital I. And I remember calling my mum and dad and saying, I didn't get the job on the news. I got this job on this thing called the internet. And my dad was like, what's the internet? And you know, when you feel like a total failure. And of course, no one knew in 1995 what the internet was going to become. A bit like now, we're only really beginning to understand what the true opportunity and potential of AI is. So I was very lucky to have got right in at the beginning. My entire career has grown up doing digital transformation, running huge retailers. So before I came over to big tech, I was most recently on the board of Boots. So I ran all of Boots.com and all of digital retail transformation for them, all of omnichannel. And it's just been the most extraordinary privilege, to be honest, to have done that for all of my career.
Now you're at Google and you're helping retailers to embrace digital change. What does that look like for you?
Oh, what a great question. You know, retail is really tough. And it's tough depending on, you know, what sort of area of retail you're in. You know, grocery is a phenomenally hard market to do well in. You've got products that go off after 5 days. It's a huge volume gain. You're trading on wafer thin margins. I think my job really is to help our customers, and therefore retailers and CPGs, really understand how they can power their business growth, whether it's either using search or using YouTube. And the two sort of ways that I like to explain it is YouTube is where products find people. We have 46 million people in the UK watching YouTube every single month. They actually watch it on a big screen. 49% of adults watch YouTube on a big screen, on average for 35 minutes every single day. So YouTube is really where you can grow your brand and get your brand or your products in front of pretty much the entire UK audience. And then we have obviously search. So you can use YouTube to grow the demand of your brand and then search to harvest the demand that you build. And what we quite often see is some retailers are really good at search, and then they're not really capitalizing on growing their brand and harvesting the full power of YouTube. Or some brands are very good at harvesting the power of YouTube and really growing the awareness of their brand. But then what they're doing is growing the awareness of the products that they've got, but then because they're not actually there in search when people are searching for their products, their competitors are coming in and swooping up those clicks instead.
So you've been a leader on both consumer brands and within tech companies. How did that differ?
You know, it's the same whether you're working at a Google or a Boots. Before Boots, I was at Jack Wills. I'm wearing my nice heritage English woven Jack Wills blazer today. And it's really all about how you lead people through change. So there's this great phrase, change has never happened so fast and will never be this slow again. My entire career has always been about helping people to embrace digital, helping people to really lean into the opportunity. And our comfort zones are a lovely place, but nothing ever grows there. And if I think about how we help people get comfortable with being uncomfortable, that's how we're truly going to power companies to keep relevant, to keep ahead of the curve. And getting big companies to get behind change is a lot harder than a small, nimble, agile startup who doesn't have a marketing team of 10 people. So they have no choice but to lean into adopting the AI, because that's the only way that they can compete. And the thing is now that AI is so incredible about helping people find profitable sales that the only way to win is to lean in and to adopt the AI.
Have there been any major influences that have helped shape your leadership approach?
Yeah, I think it's to be really clear about not letting your failures set you back, but help them to set you up for greater success. So I have a big phrase that I like to use a lot, which is we win or we learn. And I've always really tried to, whether it's been, I've been made redundant, I was made redundant from Jack Wills, I was absolutely heartbroken, whether it's being made redundant, whether it's about things not going brilliantly well, truly high performing teams are ones that are able to say, these 3 things went really well, and here's the 2 things that will do it to make it even better next time. Innovation happens at the extremes. When you're working in a world that is unbelievably competitive, like retail is right now, if you're a retailer in the UK, you're not just competing with UK retailers, you're obviously competing with Amazon, you're competing with Temu, you're competing with Shein, you're competing with TikTok shops, you're competing with other things that we don't even know yet. So I think it's all about really being clear on keep doing what you're doing really well, but you've got to be brutally honest with yourself at what you can do even better. And you need to do that every single time. Because if you don't raise the floor and raise the ceiling, if you just get better at the stuff that you're good at, then eventually the stuff that you're not so good at becomes an anchor and will drag you down and hold you back.
What do you think are some of the other barriers that women are facing in their careers and progressing that a little bit further?
2 things. One is, I hate that we set really senior women up for success. Quite often a company has had a challenging time, and then there is the natural chance to have a change of CEO or rotation of CEO. A woman is then put in to run that organization, and then she gets blamed for the failure of that organization or the fact that the organization hasn't been successful. So I find that really quite triggering to see that. And I think the thing that I have found the hardest is this very well-known bias called competency bias, which is, and there's something like 77,000 studies that back this up. This is not opinion, this is factually data, empirically correct, that men are assumed to be competent and women have to prove it. And one of the things that I see right now when I look at the very senior leadership, both female versus male, is most of the women are absolutely incredible. And there's a very triggering phase, which I don't like to use, but in the sake of expediency, I'm going to use it. When will we know that there's true equality? When there are as many incompetent female leaders as there are incompetent male leaders. And that really is competency bias playing out. And, there's certainly been times in my career, and I say this with, respect and loving kindness, where I've worked for a man and I've known that I could quite easily do their job and probably do it better.
What changes do you hope to see in the corporate world regarding gender equity and equality?
Well, honestly, this is where I'm really excited about AI. I mean, if you think about the internet led to a certain level of democratization of opportunity. So there are many more now women-led businesses in the UK that can be sort of smaller startups. So we need to close the gender pay gap. We need better parental, equitable leave for both parents so that both parents have the opportunity to continue to progress their careers. But back to that point about how the internet, I think, enabled a level of democratization of opportunity, I'm even more excited about AI. So I think if you think about what you're now able to do with AI, if you combine that with the power of the internet in terms of its reach, then I hope also that will, again, kind of lead to an exponential step in the progression of equality for everyone, right? It's not just men and women, it's trans people, it's gay people, disabled people, neurodiverse people. And then finally, there's the whole health, the gender health gap. Women live longer, but we spend longer in health. We're poorlier for more of our lives than men are. And again, I think with the advances in AI, and particularly some of the stuff that Google is doing with DeepMind, we've just got 2 Nobel Prize winners at Google now, the youngest ever Nobel Prize winner, John Jumper, for the work that they've done with this thing called AlphaFold, which I truly don't really understand what it does, but basically it's going to enable us to expedite treatment for everything from addiction to cancer to Parkinson's by 10s, 20, 30, decades of time. And I think if we're able to close the gender pay gap, get better representation and equality of opportunity for both mums as well as dads, and close the health equality gap, then perhaps we get to the point where we have a bit more of an even playing field.
How do you see the evolving tech that we have in this world shaping the future of retail?
I am super excited about retail, and if I really think about where I see huge opportunities is what are some of the things that, if you're a retailer in the UK, are superpowers that maybe some of the competitors that we're having to fight against don't have. One is shops, right? So in the UK, one of the reasons we're so advanced in online commerce is because, unlike the US, when e-com came to the UK, we were able very quickly to do next day delivery because of the geography of our country is we're quite small, right? You know, the Royal Mail has been able to do next day delivery, I think, since I was born. That's not new news. In the US, because geographically it's enormous, they were never able to do things like next day delivery. They had to build up the infrastructure and have distribution centers all over the United States. So it took them a lot longer to get to kind of a level playing field in terms of parity of some of the things that we have had in the UK now as table stakes for online commerce for a really long time. So now I think the next battleground is really going to be in this whole online to offline and the whole omni experience. So when I was at Boots, I used to say, you know, our secret weapon is the fact that there are 2,300 stores, 90% of the people in the UK live within 10 minutes of a Boots store. What is our amazing ability to compete against Amazon? We didn't have Shein and Temu at that point in time, but it would be the today, is you can order by 9 o'clock on boots.com and pick it up the next morning at your local Boots pharmacy on your way to school, on your way to work, whatever it is you're doing that next morning. And so I'm really excited about how we can help retailers really embrace the power of omni, because those retailers who are omni-channel retailers, you know, you've got like the Nexts of the world who are obviously very much, you know, openly seen to be market leaders in it. They're way more sort of 50-50, but there are a lot of retailers that are still only 20% online and then still 80% in store. And there's the opportunity not to switch from store to online or not to switch from online to store, but to exponentially grow both. And I'm super excited about, if you think about the power of Google Maps and the power of search and then the power of YouTube, how all of these things come together, the opportunity to really compete strongly in the whole online to offline world, I think is a real opportunity. And whenever I go and speak to a C-suite of any retailer in the UK, assuming that they have shops, that is the thing that I bang my fist on the table most about.
What advice would you give to young women aspiring to be leaders in the marketing sector?
You know, when I was a little girl, my dad used to say to me, you can do anything you want to, Sophie, anything at all. You just have to accept that it's harder for girls. You'll have to work twice as hard, you'll have to be twice as good as the boys, you'll have to be better to be seen the same. And he was he was like a born and bred in Huddersfield, really pretty much a male chauvinist pig, to be honest. But he understood that competency bias existed before it even had a label. And I would love to say that that's not true anymore. But the fact is, it still is true. And so what I would genuinely say is, it is still harder for women to get ahead and to be seen to do well. Please know that there are people like me who are fighting every single day to try and fix that and to change it. And I'm not alone, right? There are many other leaders, both male and female, that are also fighting very hard to break the systemic biases and the structures that exist at all levels of our society that stop it being a more fair and equal world. But keep the faith. You really can do anything you want to, but it's just going to be harder. But please know that I'm fighting for you every day.